I know it's been a while since I did one of these vlog type videos, mainly because my main priority on this channel is to review video games. I don't like to give news reports because, unlike review videos, news videos tend to date themselves, so 7 years from now this video would be irrelevant while my reviews remain watchable for the most part. So, as of writing, Batman Arkham Knight was announced to have the ESRB rating of M for mature, meaning those 17 and older can play it. Although it's a guideline, sadly, a lot of parents don't take advantage of these guidelines, and now we have underage kids swearing their heads off while playing Call of Duty. Well, keep in mind, not all kids do this, but a lot of them do. I mean, keep in mind, I was once a kid myself, and when playing the Crash Bandicoot games on my PlayStation 2, I swore at the TV a lot, especially when playing the challenging Crash Bandicoot 1. So we're all human beings prone to weakness, and I'm not insulting 12-year-old gamers when I'm stating that we're all vulnerable to this. But anyways, the big deal with Batman Arkham Knight is that the game is going to be rated M, meaning kids with responsible parents will miss out. But knowing that a lot of kids have older siblings or single parents that will be willing to accompany them to the video game store, a lot of kids play rated M games that are not 17 yet. I honestly could care less about kids underage playing Call of Duty because I don't play online due to a lot of N-words and anti-Semitic remarks that come my way, even though I'm neither black nor Jewish. But it upsets me enough that anyone of any age can just casually say something so hate-filled. So, I don't play online, and it's really not my problem. But before I get off topic here, let me just say that the previous 3 Arkham games were rated T for teenagers, meaning those 13 and older. The series started back in like 2008, so why shouldn't a series mature as the gamer does? Sure, the Arkham games are a great starting point in any entry, but there is a lot of references to the previous games, especially with Arkham City. So, if you're a teenager who's not quite 17 yet and complaining about Arkham Knight but never played the previous games, play them. Seriously, go out and play them. And enjoy those for a few years. I mean, they're highly replayable, even though the first one had a disappointing final boss, but it was a good time. I mean, they should be relatively cheap. But again, I really don't get why Arkham Knight being rated M is such a big deal. I mean, the original Jak and Daxter game for the PlayStation 2 was rated E for everyone, but a few years later when its sequel Jak 2 came out, it was rated T for teen. Where was the angry mob when that happened? I'm not saying that kids underage shouldn't be playing rated M games. I mean, even though there was blood, Skyrim was rated M, but because it's kind of tame, it's something kids at the age of 13 should play. While games like Minecraft that are rated E for everyone, well, Minecraft actually kind of scares me. I mean, the shrieking of the creatures in the Nether, which is the Minecraft equivalent of hell, it just scares me. And even though many of you would disagree with me, and there's really no blood and gore or anything, but the atmosphere is just so great, it's terrifying. I mean, I think kids at the age of 10 should play this because kids like 5 or 7 would get nightmares, and kids are very vulnerable at that age. At that point, anything can psychologically damage them for the rest of their lives. Which brings me to my next point. The Arkham Knight rated M rating should be taken with a grain of salt because the ESRB rating really hasn't been that responsible in some games. Like, for example, when I was 10, I played The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time to death. But here's where I'm getting at. The bottom of the well in Kakariko Village really made me question the ESRB rating system. I mean, it's rated E for everyone, but these zombies called Gibdos and Redeads, they were terrifying. And then there was like this thing I believe called the Big Hand, which was a slug thing with 6 hands surrounding it, and it scared me because when you slashed at it, green blood spewed out, and like it could gnaw at you and stuff, and you wouldn't bleed or anything like that, but the atmosphere and the design of the creatures really warranted a teen rating. Another reason why it would warrant a teen rating is because after you defeat Ganondorf in his first form, he chokes out blood. Like, for a split second, but it was enough to leave an impact on me. And while I say it warrants a teen rating, I'm not saying kids shouldn't play it and stuff, but I mean, at least the 3DS version got the E10 rating, meaning kids 10 or older should play it. I guess that's true. I mean, I think 12-year-olds were mature enough to play. I mean, even though those creatures were terrifying and there was questionable elements in there, it really didn't psychologically damage me. Well, maybe it did. I mean, aren't we all insane in this crazy world? But another element in the ESRB rating that they're kind of a little lax about is crude humor. For example, Banjo-Kazooie had some questionable crude humor. There are jokes in there that you probably wouldn't get as a kid, but when you're like an adult replaying this and stuff, like for example, in Gobi's Desert, Banjo comes across a dehydrated tree and Kazooie asks it, "How are your nuts?" Because the tree grew nuts, but if you're a teenager or an adult, you would know what Kazooie's implying. In fact, Banjo calls her out on it. I guess the rating was handled well because, like I said, kids wouldn't get the joke, but teenagers would have a laugh, which kind of increases replay value. But I will say that re-releases should get an E10 rating if they didn't already. But to be honest, the controversy over Batman Arkham Knight getting an M rating is actually kind of silly if you're a comic book or movie fan. Batman, even in the 1940s, was never exactly a kid-friendly franchise. In the comics back in the 40s, before the Comic Code's Authority monitored the content of comic books, the book had people stabbed to death, shot, poisoned, etc. Joker even hung a man with suspenders. The 1980s was Batman's most gory days in comics. In Frank Miller's miniseries The Dark Knight Returns, there's some nudity and a lot of brutal maiming and murdering, especially on Batman's part. Read issue 3 of that and you'll know what I mean. In the 1980s, like the graphic novels Arkham Asylum and The Killing Joke were perfect examples of how far comics will go in gory content. In The Killing Joke, Joker shoots Barbara Gordon and she gets paralyzed from the waist down. Not only that, he kidnaps her, strips her down, then kidnaps her father, Commissioner Gordon, and Joker forces him to see all of the new photos of her. And like he's taken just to drive him mad. Now that's a pretty sick concept, but keep in mind there are sick people out there, and Batman is just a reflection of this crazy world we live in. There are serial killers out there, so my point is, Batman would never really censored itself. I mean, in the 1960s it was very kid-friendly, but in the 1980s it reclaimed its gory days, as I like to put it. While stories like The Killing Joke are controversial, it's edgy Batman storytelling, and in conclusion, the rated M rating for Arkham Knight means Rocksteady has a lot of creative liberties they can take, and they can even set themselves that the M rating reflects the story they want to tell, and they won't strip it down just to appeal to a younger audience. So we should take it as it is, because J.K. Rowling did the same thing with later entries in the Harry Potter book series, and they just got darker, but also better. I mean, back in 2008 when Arkham Asylum came out, kids who played it were teens, or even younger, but now those kids are 17 and older, or almost older. And since the game will probably get a fall release, kids will probably have birthdays where they turn 17. So in the end, it's all up to the parents, and even then, kids younger than 17 will appreciate its potential majesty. The ESRB rating should be taken with a grain of salt, but keep in mind, at least it's not Call of Duty where there are explosions and limbs flying in the air and stuff. It's Batman. I mean, there will probably be blood and gore, and definitely some swearing just to improve character development and such. But the real question is your kid mature enough to handle it? Or if you're a kid watching this, are you mature enough to handle it? I recommend this game like teenagers should play. I mean, even if they're not 17, I say that the kids should play rated M games when they're at least 14. I mean, that's the equivalent of the TV 14 content and television. I mean, the content should equal that of, like, the blood and gore you see on Grey's Anatomy. Even though that's a hospital show, but blood is blood, gore is gore, no matter how you look at it. So, I advise parents and kids to at least look up gameplay videos of it before they go out and buy it.